Hey, good morning everyone. Tractorman 44 here. Every now and then you get into a situation on changing out a furnace where it's kind of a difficult place to be in. I'm in a real tight spot today. I got a real tight wall to one side, real tight wall to the back side. Already had to take a door off and a return air drop down in order to remove the old furnace. And now I'm getting ready to install the new furnace, and it's just going to be as difficult going in as it was coming out. So take a look now at what we're going to have to do here. The plenum for today is going to be just a little bit strange insofar as I was managed to get the furnace to where I could set it to where the front of it could go straight up and down, but then the left side has to taper out 3/8 of an inch in a 17 1/4 inch true height, and then the right side has to taper out 1 3/8 inches to the outside, but at the same time the rear has to funnel forward or tip forward 5 inches in order to meet the opening that we have. So it's going to be kind of strange. One side, just the front, is going to be straight. Everything else has to be an angle. Now, when you start laying something like this out, you want to start by laying out something that you know about it to be true. And we know that we're going to have 1 inch at the bottom for a double hem flange. We know it's going to have a 3/8 of an inch offset to the outside. So until we decide if we're going to put a 1/4 inch bend on it or a Pittsburgh or a lock farmer bend on it, go ahead and give yourself plenty of room. So make you up a false edge, roughly say something like 2 inches in from the outside. So then you can, another known is the 17 1/4 inch height. So you can put a height on it of 18 1/4 to compensate for the 1 inch double hem. So we'll go ahead and mark us as 18 1/4 height in two places, 18 1/4 height. Then we can turn right around and drop 1 inch off of that because we have to have 1 inch for either the drive or the S at the top. Now we have defined both the top and the bottom of the fitting, or the true length of the fitting. Now, because we marked a false start line of 2 inch in, we'll go ahead and mark one up here, 2 inches in on the 1 inch line down from the top. Then from there we'll add 3/8 of an inch back to the outside edge, and that'll give us our 3/8 of an inch offset to the outside edge. Once you get that 3/8 marked, you can take and connect those dots. That angle right there will be the 3/8 of an inch to the left. We'll either have to add 1 inch for a lock farmer, or we'll have to add a 1/4 inch for it to go into the lock farmer. That remains to be seen. We know the top width is going to be 20 inches, so we can come off of that line and mark us a width of 20 inches on the 1 inch line. And we know the layout calls for 18 3/8 at the plenum bottom. So we can go right here at 18 3/8 along the 1 inch line. Now we can connect those two dots. That's the angle for the 1 1/4 that it has to go out to the other side. I'm not going to put a lock farmer on this one, on this fitting on the front of it, because I don't have access to lock the lock farmer over on site. So this is going to have the 1/4 inch bend. So we'll mark a quarter, and then we'll connect those. That's the basic layout for the front of the plenum. Trim out the corners. We know the true length of this is going to be 18 1/4. Now to get the length of the next piece of metal, measure from your 1 inch mark right here to your 1 inch mark right here. That's roughly 16 1/4 inches plus 1 is 18 1/4 inches. With only a 3/8 inch offset, we only gained about a 1/16 of an inch in that offset. So 18 1/4 is going to work fine on both of these layouts. Here it is folded up right here. Now we can actually measure and get the lengths of the material we need in order to lay out the sides. This sides is going to get really strange because it has to start out at 20 and a half inch at the bottom it's got to go up 17¼ inches, and it's got to drop down to a 12-inch dimension. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. There's the layout of the right side, cut and ready to fold. Again, we have to lay it out opposite because I'm looking at the outside of it, and we need to fold it to the inside. I like to cross break this before I run it through the lock former. Now we go to the cleat bender and form the drive cleat on the back side of this. Again, start off with what you know. The 1/2 inch double hem down at the bottom, our actual raw length, which is going to be 18¼ for a finish of 17¼ when it's all said and done. So we'll mark the top first. 17¼ plus the 1, 18¼ Now we can mark those. We know the bottom is going to have 20½ inches. This is going to be the front, so this is going to be straight up and down. So we know this is going to have a lock former, so we can actually mark the lock former 1 inch on this. On the 1 inch line, come in 20½ And we know the top is going to be 12, so come in 12 off of the 1 inch line. Connect those dots. That should be the angle of the transition. Add 1 inch to it for the lock former at that angle. And that should be the layout. So now we'll cut. Now we can trim. We'll cross break and lock on. Now this guy here gets a little tricky because we're not really using math to figure the angle. We're using actual measurements off of the piece of metal. But again, go with what you know. Double hem. We know we're going to have a 1/4 inch on each side of this. We do not know the cut length yet, but we do know that the width is going to be 18¾ So 18¾ plus a 1/4 is going to be 19 inches in from the outside edge. The 1/4 being for the lock former. And then one more 1/4 to that. So let's go with 19 and 19¼ Now we have to come up with the actual cut length of this guy here by measuring the angle of the fittings you got here instead of using math. It can surely be done very easily using math. 18�3/8 plus an inch on each end is 20�3/8. So the cut length of this is 20�3/8. 20�3/8 and down 1 inch off of that will be 19�3/8. Cross break, fold the 90s on it, put the hem on it, and we'll come back. This one doesn't get quite a 90 because it has to go up at an angle. It's all field adjustable. Okay, so here we have it. Now bear in mind, this is not assembled, it's just stuck together in the Pittsburghs. It's not squared, not plumb, like it will be on a job site. But remember, I always say, don't assemble all your fittings, especially on furnace changeouts, inside the shop, because you need to field install those depending on how the access is around the furnace. This particular one here, I believe, is going to be able to be installed with the two sides and the back in one piece with the front piece, which is right now in the back, with that being the last and final piece to be installed. But I think I'll be able to do it that way. But here you have, it's 18 3/8 at the bottom, flaring out to 20 inches with 1 1/4 going that way, 3/8 of an inch going that way. At the same time, it's drawing inward to reach the 12-inch dimension of the existing duct we have to tie into. And this will actually be the front view of the furnace. So what you'll see is you look at the very front of the furnace right here. So you can see the slight flare to the left side. That's a 3/8 inch flare out with the 1 1/4 flare this way as it changes dimension from 18 3/8 to 20 inches.
This particular job is a prime example of why you don't want to assemble in the shop plenum. Leave it in 4 pieces so you get to the job site to decide how it needs to go in. This particular one here, you can see I've got the 2 sides and the back knocked together so it can go together in 1 piece. Then we'll add the 4th piece on the front. There I just raised the 3-piece assembled part up, set it into the S in the back, and got it ready to line up with the drives here on the side. I'll be able to drive those right into the side, then put the front on, and then latch the Pittsburghs over. But you see how come I said that we couldn't put the Pittsburghs on the front piece and the back piece because we didn't have access to hammer from the side, but we do from the front. Now we got to attach the drives up at the top, bend them over, and this part's done. Well, there's the strange offset plenum back in place, and you can see I've got the return air completely tied back in the way it was originally, and we're ready to slip the filters in, and my buddy's about ready to go ahead and start wiring and doing everything else. Hopefully that'll help some of you guys in the future, you know, working in tight places and how to figure out what it is you need to do whenever you're making your measurements and planning on installing back in a super tight spot. I could have done this and left the return air in place, but I chose not to because it made it so much easier on me. So at any rate, this TrackMan 44, this job is done, and I'm out of here, guys.